Ok, aquí estoy. Yo soy Karen and I want to ask you a question. What would you do if you could reach your Spanish goals in just 3 months? This is not a tricky question. This is not a tricky video. In this video, in this live stream, I will explain the common mistakes that many learners of Spanish, or actually in any language, have or make when they are trying to when they are trying to learn a language. And I will discuss some strategies that worked for me when I learned English, not only English, but I think that they work for any language. I'm not a multilingual person, but I was struggling when I started to learn English, and I even thought that I wasn't going to be able to learn it because I couldn't find strategies to reach that goal. So stay tuned, because this video, I hope this video, I'm very sure that this video is going to be very useful for you. And let me tell you that I also have many friends actually that speak more than 2 languages. I have students that they are practicing or learning Spanish, and Spanish is their third language, fourth language, and they all share the same strategies that I will talk to you about them today. Are you ready? Okay. Well, let me tell you to start this conversation that you have to have a goal. The goal is important because it will show you the direction of what you want to go. I've been saying this in another video, in my videos in YouTube. If you have a goal, for example, a good goal would be, okay, I want to be able to communicate with a native tutor of Spanish for 10 minutes, to speak to them, only for 10 minutes. That would be a good goal. You have a goal, and you'll see, in order to reach your goal, you have to work. Your goal is set up to be done in 3 months. Another good goal would be, I want to I don't know, I want to be able to explain the trip that I had, the last trip that I had, to my Spanish teacher, to my tutor, or to my friends, my native Spanish speaking friends. That's another good goal that we can reach together. And it depends on your level. It depends on your level, of course. If you are just starting Spanish, don't be so hard to yourself. The Spanish language learning journey it's a journey that will take you depending on your time. The thing is that you need to enjoy the process of learning. It doesn't need to be hard, it doesn't need to be difficult for you. You are going to set up your number one, your goal, and then your objectives. So having this in mind, I would love to read who are listening this live stream. It would be nice to know. And if you have any questions along this live stream, I would love to see the questions. I can see Pamela. Hola Pamela, ¿cómo estás? Estoy muy feliz de que estés aquí. Pamela is a student of mine in the club conversation that I offer every weekend. So it's nice to see you, Pamela, here. Okay, so let's begin with the 3 pillars for an effective immersion. Let's begin with the number one. This one is very interesting. The number one is set the patterns and the integration of the Spanish language in your daily life. It doesn't matter where you are. Let me explain. Number one, the patterns. Any language has patterns, and these patterns sometimes are called grammar in Spanish. Grammar is very poor grammar. Nobody likes, well, the majority of people doesn't like to study grammar. And I don't see anything wrong with grammar. Actually, grammar is the key, is the path to help you recognize the patterns. But there are also, if you don't want to call them grammar, you can call it a pattern. Let's call it a pattern. Call it a pattern. What is a pattern? Let me give you an example. Imagine that you are learning Spanish. Let's see that you have the word I want. In Spanish, I want is quiero. Now you want to say, I want to eat, I want to travel, I want to visit. So you already have one word that you know. So you just need to learn the second verb. Quiero comer, I want to eat. Quiero viajar, I want to travel, I want to visit. Quiero visitar. And that's a pattern. You already have three sentences and that you can be changing. Then you just need to learn the negative way. No quiero viajar. I don't want to travel. And so on and so on. Then you need to, maybe you want to speak in future. Future. I'm going to travel. I'm going to travel. In Spanish, I'm going to is voy a. You already know that travel is viajar. So you are just going to put the sentences together and you are going to say, voy a viajar, I'm going to visit, voy a visitar, I'm going to eat, voy a comer. That's just an example, but that's the idea of learning a language. That's why when a person many people who speak more than two languages, you probably heard that they speak the third language faster. The reason is that they know how to study a language. Every language has patterns. So that is the first thing that you have to bear in mind. You can study these patterns. There are a lot of videos on YouTube. There are books online. You can even hire a teacher. A lot of interesting resources that are for free too that you can find online. So I recommend doing that. Now, I mentioned the integration of Spanish. This is a very interesting one. The integration of Spanish. Basically, I'm going to give you some examples that I have here. Thanks God that the internet exists because now we can find a lot of free content online. I don't know, actually, I don't understand how people used to learn a language when they were only books. I remember that they would buy the big, the encyclopedias, we call it in Spanish. Pamela, if you can help me with the name of encyclopedias, in English, encyclopedias, I think. They would buy these books and they would learn by listening, by reading. Of course, that helps because you are immersing you and okay, encyclopedia. I hope that is encyclopedia. Those resources work because you are immersing you yourself in the language. You are listening all the time. So this is the same. You can find videos on YouTube, find the YouTuber that you like. I hope that you like my videos. Find the podcast that you enjoy. The key is that you have to enjoy it. Find everything that is useful for you. Surround yourself by the sounds. Keep listening. This doesn't end. It doesn't matter if you are just starting, if you are at an intermediate level or even at an advanced level. It depends on how much you can. I mean, even my first language is Spanish. Of course, we we don't stop learning our first language. It's the same with English or with Spanish. In this case, that you are trying to learn, that you want to learn Spanish, that you are learning Spanish. It's the same with any language. Now, an active way of learning would be, for example, if you are watching a video on YouTube, maybe you're watching a vlog about somebody telling you about their trip. Maybe they mention a word that you you didn't understand. Well, okay, pause that video, look for it on the dictionary, and check out their uses. Then you have a new word that you know and you understood in the context. That would be an active learning. Other ways, I don't know, some people like to label objects in their house, or I like to do this. Talk to yourself in the language in Spanish. I don't know, 5 minutes per day. Right now, I'm learning Italian because I have a trip for the next year. I want to go to Italy and put into practice my Italian. And what I've been doing is in the morning, I talk to myself in what I did yesterday, what am I going to do today, what are my plans for tomorrow. I really try to think and describe the objects that I see around my house, and you'll realize no matter how much you've learned, you'll realize that there are a lot of words that you need to know, and you have to take some time, sit down. Even it'd be nice that you take half an hour per day. But if you have just 10 minutes, sit down and write down. And this is another key that helped me a lot for me, and I'm going to put it here in this first pillar. What helped me a lot to learn English is writing down what I want to say, because of course speaking it's more difficult than thinking and then put it into a notebook. You'll realize that when you're writing, number one, you'll realize the words that you need to learn. You look for them in the dictionary, and then you write them down and then try to say what you just wrote out loud without reading. Try to say it and let's see how much you can do. I promise it's a challenge, but it's very rewarding when you can do it. So do that. That was what it helped me. If you don't know, in case you don't know, I have another YouTube channel. It's called La Carencita. This is not an advertisement, but I decided to make my videos in English because I wanted to practice and they worked. It's not a perfect English what I have, but I can communicate, which is more important. Of course, I want to keep learning. I'm still learning, so that's why I understand you guys. Okay, so for example, Pamela here. Thank you very much, Pamela. It seems that you're the only one who is connected, but I can see other 7 people here. So thank you very much for that. That's amazing. It's amazing to see that you want to learn, that it's encouraging for you to hear this live stream, because that means that you want to learn, you want to reach your goals. So Pamela is saying, para practicar en mi vida cotidiana, me gusta elegir español cuando yo estoy comprando una cosa, como boletos del tren. Sí, sí, correcto. Es una práctica diaria. So she's saying that to practice daily, she likes to choose Spanish when she's buying nothing, like train tickets. Reese is asking, saying buena idea. Exactly. Okay, let's go with pillar number 2, the effective use of technological resources. In these days, there are many that are for free, or not for free. It depends on how much you want to invest, of course. There is one app that is very popular nowadays, that is Duolingo. I'm actually using Duolingo right now to as part of my studies of Italian, but I know that app is not going to give me what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for to speak. That app is helping me, is showing me vocabulary that is specific, that I need to know. And that app is helping me to talk in specific situations. I'm talking about house vocabulary. That's a great idea, but I need more. I need to actually make the sentences together. And I want to be immersed in the language. So that's one. It's just one part of my daily studies. Not only my daily studies, there are a lot of videos on YouTube that says the same, that tells you the same podcast that I like to listen to, that tells you the same. Use the apps, but the apps are not everything. They are just part of your studies. Um, I don't know. There is Busu, Babel as well. They are they have their thing. They have, if you find them useful, use them. They will give you a lot of vocabulary. But there are also a lot of dictionaries online that can help you, that can show you how you can use a specific word in different contexts. I like to use word reference. I like to use lingui in Spanish. I don't know, but of course I speak Spanish, so I tend to say lingüe, but I think is the correct pronunciation is lingui. Um, for example, again, social. What I also like to do is social media. I find the people who speak in Italian, who are teaching you Italian in their daily life, or they just speak Italian. It's fun. You have to find that fun. Um, some one mistake I haven't talked about the mistakes that many people make when they learn Spanish, and I'm going to mention one right now. One mistake that a lot of people make when they are trying to learn Spanish or any language actually is that when they ask their teacher or anybody else that have already reached their goal, they say, how difficult did you find to reach your goal? That is the first mistake. They are already thinking in a negative way. Why would they think that it's difficult? It's not difficult. Actually, it's enjoyable. It's part of a daily practice that we can have, that you can have. That is the first mistake. The first mistake is to have the perspective that is going to be difficult, that the grammar is going to be difficult, that listening is going to be difficult. You're immediately closing yourself. Te estás cerrando, and we don't want that. The second one is to start, the second mistake, and now I'm going to say it right now. The second mistake is when people study a lot of vocabulary. They start studying a lot of house vocabulary. Okay, that is nice. You know all the house vocabulary, but can you put it in a sentence? That is the most important thing. The way I would recommend you to study, okay, let's make sentences. Make sentences. Okay, in present, I want to visit. In past, I wanted to visit. In future, I'm going to visit. I need to visit. I will visit. And then that would be the way I would do it. And then from that, you can, if you're studying Spanish, that is a Romance language, you can go further and study the subjunctive, or you can hire a teacher that will show you the path of how you can be, you can have an advanced level of Spanish. That's Teachers are not like magic. Teachers are just showing you the path. You need to do the majority of the job. And that's what I do with my classes. Um, I teach you the path, but I also know, because I like it. I also know that we need all these resources that I'm telling you. And when I make my courses, I try to cover all these things. I try to give you something to read, something to write, something to listen. I use vocabulary lists, and this is important here in this pillar number 2. There's a methodology that I love using that is called space repetition. A technique, sorry, I think I said technology. It's space repetition. What is this? It's basically a learning technique where you can learn materials in spaced intervals, which increases over time. The example, flashcards. Um, Maybe I use Quizlet. In Quizlet, there are a lot of flashcards you can find, but I also use Anki, where you can create your own flashcards. Maybe you see something on the street. a word on the street. Imagine you are already living in a Spanish speaking country and you see something on the street and you see that it says, let's say, cuidado, no pasar. And then you looked it up on your dictionary and you realize that it says, okay, how could I translate this? Be careful, don't go, don't pass over here, something like this. You put it in your app, Anki app, and then you'll study it later. And then with the time, along the time, you'll remember that word, that phrase. That is a technique that I also applied and that I like to apply. Now, exactly, las apps son una herramienta, pero no son todo lo que necesitamos. Lo que necesitamos es todo, sumergirnos sin expectativas, disfrutarlo. Ahora, let's go with the next one. Now, another thing that I will recommend you, if you are already learning Spanish, it would be nice to know where you are um, standing up, or where you are now, in what level. It's important to know, so you know where you at and how much you want to reach in a certain time. And this, I want to offer you my free tool. It's a chatbot that you know that my husband and I are very passionate about languages. And he is also passionate about programming, and he made a very cool project. He created an IA tool, which you can test your Spanish level. It's called, I called him Diego, and basically it use artificial intelligence. He will ask you some questions and then he will determine your level. I will leave you the link if you are interested. It's totally free. It's just for you, to help you. It's on my website as well, thrivingspanish.com. I'm trying to put the link on the chat. This is the link. Okay. So Reese in the chat, the people who are in the chat, Reese is saying, I don't usually learn a word until I have learned and forgotten it 3 times. That happens. Yeah. I think I would say the same for me, definitely. And we need to be self-compassionate with ourselves. Don't compare ourselves with other people. Maybe other people learn very fast, but so what? We are enjoying the process. Okay, let's go with the third pillar. Okay, the third pillar is basically, I would call it cultural immersion and conversation, practical conversation. What does that mean? Okay, if you have the opportunity, if you have the privilege of living right now in a Spanish-speaking country, you have a lot of opportunities right now. What does that mean? Immerse yourself in the culture. Immerse yourself with people who speak Spanish. How could you do this? Go to la tiendita, la panadería, and order in Spanish. It doesn't matter if you do it, if you're nervous, if you make a mistake, if you are doing it wrong. Who cares? Actually, we enjoy when you are trying to speak in our language. We are not going to deny that, at least in Mexico, people who are learning English like to speak in English too. And that's the attitude that I want you to have. We, us Mexicans, we take every opportunity to speak with a person in English. That's the attitude that I want you to have. Take the opportunities to speak Spanish. It doesn't matter if you're feeling nervous because, you realize that you say la instead of el, that you said la problema instead of el problema. That's just an example. It doesn't matter. You're communicating. participate in events that the city is organizing. Surround yourself by Spanish. Check out what people are doing. Try to understand their customs, and soon enough, you'll see that you'll feel very comfortable. Maybe you won't know all the Spanish all of a sudden just because you are there. That doesn't happen, but believe me, you'll feel more comfortable around them. It has happened to me in English. Of course, it has happened to me. I've been surrounded by people who only speak in English when I didn't have the conversational level, but I was just paying attention. I was just being very self-aware or of everything that was happening. And I remember that at the end of that meeting, I had one new word, two new words that I would write it down on my app or on my notes. If you are old fashioned, notes that are I like to write a lot of notes as well. That helps. Everything helps. Another way, I also mentioned, let me see, I also mentioned conversational practice. Maybe you aren't in a Spanish speaking country, but that doesn't stop you to practice Spanish. There, if you have the time and if your resources allow you to do it, there are a lot of apps online where with tutors that will be very patient to help you. Of course, because this is my YouTube channel, I will announce my conversation club that we host every week, my mom and I. The idea is to make my students feel comfortable with the language. It's not a very straight lesson where, okay, you mentioned it wrong, say it again. The idea is that we immerse in the language. We talk about a specific topic, and you don't realize that you spoke the whole hour in Spanish. I'm very much into Spanish. I want to meet you in the Spanish language because believe me, I believe that every person has a different personality when they speak another language. That's the idea. This is the club that I host every weekend. You can check it. If you're interested, I will tell you that now I have a promotion, a 15% discount if you join my club, my membership. I will leave you the link as well in the chat, or you can check I will leave you in the comments as well. Don't worry about that if you are interested. But it's not only my website. There's iTalki as well. I like to work on iTalki when I practice with another tutor in Italian. There's different websites where you can do that. And some of them are actually free, that they make an exchange of languages. You speak your native language and they show you Spanish. That's a good way too. Let's see. Pamela says, me encanta tomar notas. I love taking notes. Sí, es muy bueno. Me encanta también. And let me see. What else am I missing something? Well, and if you have the opportunity to travel to a Spanish-speaking country to understand the culture, you'll find it a very rich experience. You'll discover that there's another way of living that maybe it will make you want to move to that country or visit more. It's always interesting, of course. Oh, you already know that. And let me show you an example. I want to show you an example, a real example of how you would put into practice these three pillars. I'm going to say it in Spanish and I'm going to repeat it in English. Imagine the situation. Imagine that you are at the market and you want to buy some fruits. So you would say, hola, buenos días. Quiero comprar algunas frutas. Good morning, I want to buy some fruit. Now, you want to ask for, okay, this is a point, check out this. I'm actually applying it because I'm not sure the correct pronunciation of this. Ripe mangoes. You know, when they are ready to eat, and but they are in green, they are ready to eat. I think the pronunciation is ripe mangoes, but I don't know the word for ripe in Spanish. So check out how would I handle this. I would say, quisiera mangos, por favor, pero ¿cómo se dice cuando la fruta está lista para comer? So I'd like mangoes, but how do you say when the fruit is ready to eat? And the vendor would say, ¿quieres mangos maduros? Do you want ripe mangoes? And I would say, sí, exacto, mangos maduros. Gracias por enseñarme esa palabra. Yes, exactly, ripe mangoes. Thank you for teaching me that word. So, can you see what happened here? Instead of panicking because I didn't know the word, I used a simple description for what I wanted to say. I asked how to say when the fruit is ready to eat. And this not only helped me to communicate my needs, but also taught me a new word. Maduro means ripe. And then this is a perfect example of the second pillar. The second pillar is use of technological resources. So what I will do is, okay, if I think that I will have it in my head, don't trust your head sometimes because you will forget. I would write it on my app, my Anki app, where I will study later the flashcards, or maybe write it in a note so I can study it later and memorize it. Because let's be honest, probably we are going to forget. And the other thing that it's very important to mention that I forgot actually the correct name of this is to relate the word that something to happen to you. Let's say, for example, um, mm, uh, um, I I want to give you an example, but I didn't prepare this example. I'm just trying to think. That's why I'm thinking now. This is real, guys. Um, I okay. I'm going to explain it. I can give you an example, but you have to relate the word with something that you saw or something that is relatively similar in your language, so you won't forget later. Um, for example, and now I would use the word that I learned in different contexts. Maybe, for example, I was using the word maduro. Maduro, when the fruit is ready to eat, but maduro is also a word that describes a mature person or una persona madura, or maybe un queso maduro, an aged cheese. That's three ways of how we use maduro. And this is how we integrate these pillars into our daily routine. And then that is everything. That is everything that I wanted to mention. As you can see, it's basically a combination of everything. I would love to hear if you have any other advice, people who are here in the comments. Write it down. What is a technique that has worked for you? I always like to hear my students how they enjoy learning. I always ask them because I'm always surprised when they speak fluently. I feel I don't know, I feel proud, not because they are my students. I know that it's not only for me. I know that it's a series of combination that my students are using. And if you're watching this video and you want to start learning Spanish, don't give up. Just keep doing it and set up a goal to see if in 90 days you can reach that goal. When you reach the goal, now set up another 90 days and set up another goal. Use these techniques that just gave you, and you'll see that you have a path, that you don't feel lost. Of course, as I said, if you feel that you need to hire a teacher to show you the path, that is also an excellent idea. Everything is working here. Just don't. What I wouldn't recommend is that you have two teachers teaching you grammar, for example. Just stay with one, so you can continue your path, and you'll soon see improvement. Okay, so I was using the word maduro a few minutes ago. You remember? Una persona madura, un queso maduro. Pamela is saying un vino maduro también. Exacto. Un vino maduro es un vino, maybe a wine that has a lot of time to mature. Those wines that are very tasty. And another technique that one of my students is mentioning here is mirar programas en español, y cuando estoy mirando tomo notas, de lo que las personas están diciendo. Después practico esta información. ¡Claro! Active learning. You are taking notes when you're watching a TV program. Watching TV programs are great too. I was listening the other day a person who said, I watch in Spanish what I used to watch when I was a child, because I already knew what was happening. That can also work. And you write down the words that you don't know. That is important. And you'll soon see that you are improving a lot. And well, guys, thank you very much for being here. I hope you enjoy. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed this podcast. It's a podcast almost, this live stream. Remember that I have a promotion for my conversation club to immerse yourself in the language. Check out my website, thriveinspanish.com, and put down the coupon club15 so you can get a 15% discount. Club 15 all together. Thank you, everybody. Muchas gracias y nos vemos pronto. Adiós, amigos. Adiós.